Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another TMDSAS office hour session. My name is Sulema Melendez, and I am the TMDSAS Support Coordinator with TMDSAS. I am happy to join you guys once more in another session. This one will be a session that we have specific for any veterinary applicant who's still working on their application and may have questions about anything specific with filling out the application process, or any other questions that are relevant to you all. So for this session, I do have a couple of links that I can share with you guys. In the meantime, while we get more people joining us for this live session and ask questions. So go ahead, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those into the chat, and I will just be here to answer any questions that you guys may have. I did want to share that we have in the past hosted a veterinary application workshop, as well as a veterinary school panel with the veterinary schools. They address questions about what they look for in a veterinary application, what makes a veterinary applicant competitive in their application. So they do have a lot of useful insights to share with you all. So I'll be sharing the links to those sessions. All right. And speaking of being a competitive applicant, I will also share a link to the Veterinary Statistics dashboard. So this is a dashboard that has information about the past application cycles, what those metrics look like. So typically those MCAT scores, GPAs, and any other information that you're interested in knowing and learning about previous applicants and how you can compare to those previous applicant polls to get an idea of what makes a applicant competitive. So as you all know, the veterinary school application and entry into veterinary school is very competitive here in Texas with those two vet schools that we have. So that link will show you um, the dashboard that we have on our Team DCS website. And just speaking of the schools, I would also like to share the contact page. So if you did have any questions about secondaries, CASPer, interviews, or anything else that's specific to the schools, you can reach out to them via these links. I went ahead and just gave you guys a link to their websites. I just thought that would be helpful. And the contact page that we have on our website also lets you know additional contact information, such as their phone number and email address for their admissions office. All right, so do you see a question here? A couple questions already. I'll go ahead and start answering this for you guys. So this one is from Jaylene. Hello, I want clarification as to when the deadline for the application is, September 15th or 16th, and what time? A great question. That is very important to know. The veterinary application deadline for this cycle will be Friday, September 16th. So it'll be this Friday. So it's coming up very shortly around the corner, and the deadline will be at 5 p.m. Central Time. So we here at Team DCS, we are located in Texas, so we use the Central Time time zone. And I did want to mention that your veterinary evaluation forms are also due at that time. So you want to make sure that your evaluators submit those evaluation forms by that deadline as well, because they will also be due. And then just to make sure that you guys have a reference of the deadlines that are specific for you guys, I will go ahead and share what those look like. I did have a previous office hour session a couple weeks back, just with some information as to why you shouldn't wait to apply to the last minute for the veterinary deadline. And in that session, I did share information about secondaries and CASPer, so I'll go ahead and reshare it with you all here as well. And it's divided up by the schools. So there's one for Texas A&M and the other one for Texas Tech. But great question. Again, I will let you guys know that the deadline is this Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. Central Time. Okay, is it okay if I submit my application before receiving all of my letters of evaluation? So if you are a veterinary applicant and you want to submit your application, let's say today, it's fine if you don't have your veterinary evaluation forms on it and before you, or sorry, let me rephrase that. So if you want to submit your veterinary application today, you don't want to wait until Friday, and you don't have all your veterinary evaluation forms, that's okay. You can go ahead and submit it now, but just make sure that your evaluators do submit those evaluation forms by the deadline, which is this Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time. Um, Veterinary evaluation forms are due at the same time as your application, so they have to be in by that deadline and date and time. But again, if you want to go ahead and submit the application now, you don't have to have those veterinary evaluation forms. However, you do want to make sure that you have those in by Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And let's say you are a medical or a dental or podiatric applicant, you can have you can submit your application without those letters of evaluation. We don't need those to process your application, and they won't delay the processing of your application. Once those letters are received, those will be uploaded as they come in, and our supporting documents team is the one who processes those letters for you guys. So it's a separate process, and we'll get those uploaded on the application as they come in. Okay. And do the veterinarians who write our letters of recommendation need to be out of vet school for a minimum of 5 years? Um, that's a great question. I would suggest that you redirect this question to the veterinary schools that you're interested in applying, just to see if they have a specific criteria. But with TMDSAS, as long as they are veterinarian, then that meets the letter requirement that they ask for. So you need to have three veterinary evaluation forms. One of them must come from a veterinarian. The schools haven't told us specifically if they need to be a veterinarian for a certain amount of years. The only requirement that we look at is that it's from a veterinarian. So, great question. I recommend asking the schools just to be clear and 100% sure that you can use this evaluation. Um, but on the TMDSA side, as long as it's a veterinarian, we'll go ahead and accept it. Okay, so under my status page, it shows the date my recommendation letters were received. Does this mean my letters are uploaded, processed, and reviewed? So I would just confirm this is for veterinary, the veterinary application, correct? Um, I'm assuming you are a veterinary application applicant. Sorry, get those terms mixed up a lot. But I'm assuming you are a veterinary applicant. So technically, you guys only need evaluation forms. You do not need any letters of recommendation necessarily. So the schools require that you have those veterinary evaluation forms filled out. Those are a little different than the rest of the applicants. The veterinary schools do want those evaluation forms to be submitted. So your evaluators will go in and accept the letter request, and it'll take them to this evaluation form that they will fill out. It has already questions that the schools are specifically looking for, and they will just fill it out. Typically, for those, it's a really quick turnaround once they submit it. It'll show up on your status page as received and approved, and that means that we have those evaluation forms already submitted. They are approved just because those are a little bit different than the letters and the process that goes with processing letters, the actual physical letters. But with you guys, it's a little different, and those are just evaluation forms. So if it says on your end, received and approved, that means your evaluation is in, it's ready to go, and the schools will be able to see that on their end. I know it can be a little confusing with the difference between letters of recommendation, which we call letters of evaluation, um, just so it encompasses the actual letters of recommendation for medical, dental, and podiatric applicants. Um, but for veterinary applicants, we use technically it's evaluation forms, but because those two are different submission methods for the applicant type, we just go ahead and call them letters of evaluation. So I know it can be confusing, but just let me know if you need any clarification. And then speaking of evaluators, so a lot of times some evaluators may not be sure how to complete your evaluation to make sure that they say that the right things for you on your behalf. As the letters of evaluation are supposed to give the schools a little bit more insight as to who you are and what you bring to the table as an applicant. So, to give your evaluators a little bit more of context and information that they can include in those evaluations, we do have a resource from the AMC on this page right here that I have linked below. It has resources that they can take a look at to get an idea of what they can include in their evaluation, any questions that they have about their account access with TMDSAS, or just questions in general about those evaluations can be found here. So we do have the step-by-step instructions on how to fill out those evaluation forms for veterinary applicants on that page. So definitely have your evaluator take a look at that if they have any questions. And just keep those questions coming. I am here as long as you need me to answer those questions for you guys. I did want to mention that we have the next steps after applying page. So it does not all end whenever you hit submit. You still need to keep up with your application, make sure that you have everything that you need after you submit, and that you are in constant communication with TMDSAS and your schools, just to make sure you don't miss anything that may be important for you. So this includes looking out for your messaging inbox in your Team DSCS application portal, making sure that your email address is up to date so you don't miss any emails that may come your way from the schools themselves, including information about secondaries, CASPer, all that is going to be located on that page as well. As well as information on how to update your grades when those become available to you at the end of the fall semester or quarter. And those are important to make sure that the schools know what your grades are for your courses, to clear out any deficiencies that you may have, and other information that will also be located on that page as well. And speaking about the CASPer, so the schools, the deadline for the CASPer for the veterinary schools is Thursday, September 29th. for both of them. So you want to make sure that you get your CASPer completed. Every year you have to complete a new assessment. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that the CASPer is not just another barrier. It does offer another opportunity for you guys to show um, what you basically it's a situational test, and you'll be able to show like another aspect or another area of strength that you have to offer as an applicant rather than just the application itself and the metrics that go with it. We will be co-hosting an office hour slash informational with TXHES and the Altus Suite Assessment team. They'll be joining us the week of September 27th. So more than likely, the session will be hosted on Tuesday, the 27th at 1 p.m. around the same time through the same channel on YouTube. And they'll be here to talk to you guys and give us more information about what the assessment offers, what it provides for you guys, the benefits, and more information and any other questions that you guys have. Just I advise and recommend that you guys join us for that session because they'll have a lot of useful information. Um, that deadline, remember, it will be Thursday, September 29th for veterinary applicants. And I do know that the medical schools, some do require the CASPer as well. So for more information, just take a look at that next steps after applying. It'll tell you the list of schools that require the CASPer. That way you guys can get an idea as to what this information is used for before the deadline comes and you guys need to complete this assessment. All right, and just have those questions coming our way. And if you're unable to reach us via this platform or during this time, that's okay. You can always send us a message in your internal messaging system in your TMDSAS application portal. That is actually the best way to communicate with TMDSAS. Um, the reason for that is because whenever you send us a message, it is connected with your application, so we are able to take a look at those questions a lot quicker. And typically, your email inbox is reserved for anyone who hasn't yet completed an application or started an application. So if you have any questions about um, the application and filling it out, go ahead and just send us a message, and our team will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. Just know that as it gets closer to the deadline, it might take a little bit longer, just because typically for the veterinary deadline, most applicants do wait till the very last minute to submit those applications and will have questions. But if you want to beat that uh, stampede of application questions that are coming our way, go ahead and send in those messages and questions a lot sooner, and it will typically be within 1 to 2 business days window turnaround time. Okay, so I attended Dallas College and took courses in various schools within it. Under colleges attended section, do I need to put all schools within Dallas College? I'm assuming you are referring to the Dallas Community College district system. So I'm assuming you were referring to the different campuses within that. I know there's like Brookhaven College, and there's other schools within other campuses within that school district. You can go ahead and enter all those campuses that you attended. Just know that once the time comes, if you are interviewed, if you have interviewed at a veterinary school, that school or schools will notify us. At that point, TMDSCS will reach out to you to collect transcripts. And typically with community colleges, even if you have attended multiple campuses, all the coursework in campuses will be included under one transcript. That is fine. It'll be okay because with TMDSCS, we know that there are different community college districts, and all those campuses and courses will be listed under one transcript file. So that will be completely fine. Just make sure that in your application you do enter all the campuses that you attended during those specific time frames. And it'll be fine because once you are requested to send in those transcripts, we know to only look out for one transcript that has all the campuses and all the coursework under one document. All right, just a follow up. You currently have it as Dallas College Mountain View since it is now just Dallas College. Okay, yeah, just do the best you can with entering those college campuses. It sounds like that's one of them. So again, just enter the campuses that you have attended and don't worry about the transcript. We know that it comes under one document. And as you're getting ready to submit your application, we highly recommend that you guys print out a PDF version of the application, or just at least view it on your end to just check for any misspellings, any sections that you might have put come back to. Um, and you might not be able to change after you submit, so just make sure that you go over it, or have a second pair of eyes take a look at it as well, especially for those essays, to make sure it reads well, that there's no typos on it. Typically, the sections that I know from the top of my head that you will not be able to make changes to after you submit are your activities, your essays, and that is mainly it. That is the top two sections that you cannot make any changes to once you submit. Uh, Let me go ahead and share with you guys the previous office hour that we hosted. Talked about um, key points and key areas to take a look at when reviewing your application before you submit, to make sure that you avoid any processing delays that can occur if you do not take a look at these specific sections. So I highly, highly recommend that you take a look at this office hour, or at least just review your application before you submit it. And typically with activities, what tends to happen is our applicants enter information and then it later changes, or there are changes to the activities themselves. Unfortunately, that section cannot be changed once you submit the application. So we highly recommend that applicants just keep a log of all those changes that have occurred, and just take that information with you to the interviews and present it to the schools. The schools know that changes in activities are common and can happen from the time that you submit your application to the time that you end up matriculating at your school. So just if you have any changes to those activities, just keep a log of that information and share it with the schools whenever it's time for your interviews. And I'll just stick around for just a few more minutes if we don't have any other questions. Again, you can always send your questions our way via the TMDSAS internal messaging system in your application portal. All right. So we have another follow-up question. On some of my school's transcripts, it shows summer one and two, and of course underneath each. Do I label this as summer or summer one and two under the terms attended section? So my recommendation or our recommendation is to follow what's on your transcript. So if your school has summer one and summer two, go ahead and enter it as such in your application just so that it matches the same information that is listed on there. If a school only has summer, then go ahead and just list that term as summer. That's why we do have that option as three options for summer. So summer, summer one, and summer two, just depending on how the schools enter that information on your transcript. So just use the same thing that is reflected on your school's transcript. All right, let me just see if I have any additional information to share with you guys. All right. And then just to save you guys some money, I did want to share with you guys that you do not need to submit your transcripts during this time. As veterinary applicants, just worry about submitting your primary application, making sure that your veterinary evaluations are submitted at that time as well, which is Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. Central Time. For you guys, transcripts are not needed until requested. And again, TMDSAS will send that request once the schools have let us know that you've been interviewed. So I'll go ahead and just post that little blurb in here just as a reminder. So again, don't send in transcripts just yet. They're not needed at this time. Okay. I am a medical school applicant. All three of my recommenders uploaded their letters 3 weeks ago. For two of them, it says received/approved. For one of them, it says not received or approved. So this is typically for one or two reasons. The first reason could be that they just simply have not um, sent us any letters our way on their behalf, or they did submit a letter, but it was rejected if it didn't have one of the letter requirements that the schools require. So that is typically you will be notified via message. So I recommend that you take a look at your inbox in your Team DSCS application portal. Make sure that you didn't miss any messages from our team letting you know that a letter was rejected, specifically from this evaluator. And if it was rejected, they tell you why and to let the evaluator know to get that fixed as soon as possible. But if you don't see a message in your portal, then it just means that your evaluator has not submitted a letter for you. Okay, what criteria classifies someone as a non-traditional student? Great question. So for that section of the application, it is self-reported. So let me take a look at what I can find really quick on the topic. Alrighty. So typically for non-traditional, the non-traditional applicant section is self-reported, but typically non-traditional applicants have either career changes or going back to school after many, many years. Were in the military, or any other reason that the applicant believes would classify them as non-traditional, that is opposite of the traditional route towards professional school, which is typically going from high school straight into undergrad and then going straight to professional school. So if your route looks a little different than that, and you identify as a non-traditional applicant, that can be a section where you give the schools a little bit more insight as to what your pre-health journey has looked like specifically for you. And we do have a session that we hosted with specifically for non-traditional students and with non-traditional now medical students or dental students. And I'll go ahead and share that link for you guys. I am sorry, I cannot speak today. So let me go ahead and share that with you guys. And this session that we hosted is also located on our TMDSAS.com website. So if you are unable to get it or find it, you can find it on our website as well. And then we also have, as a resource and like a support group, we do have the non-traditional student group on Facebook. So I'll go ahead and send you guys a link to that. So if you consider yourself as a non-traditional applicant, that is a great support group that you can join and just be part of a larger community that just are very supportive of one another and supportive of everyone's journey towards professional school. So I'll go ahead and share a link to that as well. And we also have an online group for just the regular applicant pool. If you'd like to join that as well, it's also available. I'm going to go ahead and link that as well. All right, so we have another question for the interruptions to education question. Will an academic suspension be considered, or does this refer to a sudden family emergency or financial circumstance? So there are two questions. I guess they're similar because they are located on that page. One of them is academic. It's related to academic suspension, but just let me take a look at that really quick. But another question is interruptions to education. So this is anything that you consider to be an interruption to your education, just your regular plans to complete school maybe within 4 years, and something happened and it took you a little bit longer. Um, Anything along those lines is a reason for an interruption to your education. So let me find that really quick. I'm trying to find that. Okay. So for the education and training history, so it will ask you if you identify as a non-traditional applicant. The second question will ask you for any interruptions to your education or vocation, which is where you would enter those examples that you gave are examples of what you can enter in that section for that specific question. If that is something that was that happened with you in your circumstance. And the third question is about any disciplinary action that you report. So such as academic suspension. So you can potentially answer those two questions if they're applicable to you, but just know that there are two different questions for those two situations. Okay. So following up with the previous question, the letter of recommendation was rejected because it was not dated. My recommender says it is not allowing him to upload another letter. So go ahead and send a reply back to the message that was sent to you, so that way we can have a team member help you out with that. And perhaps maybe they are unable to locate the original link that is sent to evaluators to upload a letter, and maybe that is probably why they're having trouble with that, or just making sure that the letter was cleared out so that way the placeholder is empty for them to upload it again, a corrected version of the letter. So if you have further questions about that, go ahead and just send reply back to that message that was sent to you about your rejected letter. That way that team member can help you out with that. All right, guys. So thank you guys so much for joining and for asking great questions. Again, if you do have any follow-up questions and need further help or assistance with filling out your application, especially as that veterinary deadline does approach this upcoming Friday, feel free to send us a message in the TMDSAS application portal. This is at the top right-hand corner whenever you log in. It has your name, your TMDSAS ID number, and it'll show you your inbox. It'll just say send a message to TMDSAS. So check that, check it for messages, select that if you want to ask us questions about your application, but that is the best way to communicate with us. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this session, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week and good luck on the veterinary application deadline. Bye, everyone.